Good morning, Teach Better family. It's Jeff. We've got our good friend Jason Reagan here, coming to us from the other side of the world, basically, or not basically, I think legit other side of the world.
Legit.
And we are live here. This is your daily drop-in for Thursday, May 19th, 2022. We're going to talk a little bit. We got some good news for you. We've got some holidays to share. We're going to get into our theme. We're going to talk about Jason and sort of his amazing ride as an educator and where he's at and what he's done and what he's planning to do. And it's going to be a good time. Stick with us. Grab your cup of coffee or tea or whatever you drink in the morning. Or if you're where Jason is in the evening, we'll get into that. But drop in the comments. Let us know where you're at. Let us know what's getting you excited for the day. We'll be back in about 27 seconds. All right, and good morning. Welcome to Daily Drop More. We are live Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday every week at 7 a.m. Eastern time. Or if you're where Jason is, it's like 8 o'clock p.m. instead of a.m.
Yeah.
Super excited. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn right now. Or maybe you're listening a little bit later on the Teach Better Talk podcast, which you were also a guest on before we changed the format. So we can talk about a whole bunch of stuff.
All kinds of stuff, man.
Jason, my friend, it is so good to see you. We were just talking beforehand about how it's been a while since we've chatted.
It's been a while. Yes.
You were on the podcast, but it was like 2 years ago, probably.
It was 3 years ago, I think. I was
3
looking
years
back.
ago, really? Wow.
Yeah,
So you were pretty early on, too. Yeah. So super excited to chat with you. Good morning to those dropping in the comments. Jason, how are you today? It's evening. It's almost 8 o'clock, right?
Yeah, it's 8 p.m. here. Absolutely.
So I guess how was your day versus how you doing this morning? Like, how was your day today? Like, how'd it go?
Yeah, my day was good, man.
What is it?
What
are we in for today?
What are you in for? Like? The weather was great, man. So just
great.
Be ready. It's going to be some great weather today.
Good to know. So we're joking about that. So the people understand why we're having a good time with that. Jason, can you, for anybody who doesn't know you in our network, because you've been connected to us, you've been a guest on the podcast. Your podcast is on our podcast network. We've known you for a while. But if somebody isn't connected with you yet, can you kind of give us the introduction of who is Jason? Who is this guy?
Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate that. Thanks for letting me join you this morning or this evening. So my name is Jason Reagan, and I am an international educator. So I'm currently based in South Korea. So I am quite a few time zones away, but it's evening here. So it's Thursday evening, and I teach in an international school. So basically I teach in an English medium school for students who pay a tuition to come and be part of an international sort of education. And it can be very similar to an American style or a British style or Australian style or whatever kind of school. And it's got lots of different kinds of teachers and different kinds of students in it. And it's really fun. I really, really love doing what I'm doing. And this is, I think, my 19th year overseas. So it's been a wild ride.
Yeah. And 19 years overseas, but in multiple countries. Can you...
Correct.
Give us the journey. So
I'll give you the journey.
In Georgia.
I did.
As you can see back behind me. Yeah, I remember that flag. So it started in Georgia, now in South Korea, but it wasn't like a Georgia to South Korea. It's been a little. Yes,
it's been quite a ride. So I taught for a year in the Atlanta area in a public school, and while I enjoyed it, it was not all I expected it to be. And I heard an ad on the National Public Radio for teachers in China, for English teachers. And I thought, that's the farthest I can possibly go without coming back around. Right. So I taught for a year in Beijing as a college professor of English, and really enjoyed that. It was just so neat to live somewhere versus just to travel somewhere.
Yeah.
And so that was really eye-opening, especially a Georgia boy, having never really been far from Georgia. And so the complete opposite of everything you can imagine. Then I went home for a couple of years to just pay off student loans and things like that. And I went back to China, and I was there for 5 years. I met my wife, who is from China, who's also a teacher. And then we came back to the States and started our family. And we moved to Bermuda for a year, actually. So that was kind of fun I did not realize Bermuda was so far north when I took the job. And it has winter, which you wouldn't expect in what's called the Caribbean. So it was a little different, but I enjoyed it. And then we moved back to the States for a little while, and then back to China again, and then now in South Korea. So we've bounced around.
Now, when you've bounced back to the States each time, has it been to Georgia every time?
Yes.
Or so
it's been to different parts of Georgia. Yeah,
Gotcha.
It has. It's comfort, I guess. I guess you go to where you're used to, right? And
sure.
Your license is good there and all that kind of thing. So yeah.
So what's the longest you've been somewhere? So you were in China for 5 years. Is that the longest? How long have you been in South Korea?
This is my 5th year in South Korea. So this is the longest I've been in one school overseas. The ones in China, I was in China for over 10 years, but it was multiple times in and out. So
gotcha.
Yeah, a little different.
When you mentioned earlier, you said English medium school. What does that mean? What does English medium mean?
Great question. That means that the language of instruction is English. And the reason we have to specify that is that these are usually schools that are based in countries that do have local students in it. And so there's often English is not the first language at home. And so you have to sort of specify that.
So they know where they're sending their kids.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah, sure.
And many of these schools have admissions requirements for English levels and things like that, because they do want you walking around and being immersed in language. And so that's why students are sent to our school is either they're there because their parents work there, or they're there because they're part of an expat company somewhere, or they're local kids who are looking maybe to study in America or study in Canada or the UK.
So they all have some level of English.
Absolutely.
Although typically a lot of times it's the second language, but they have some level so that they can come in. Okay,
absolutely. Yeah. But the kids I teach middle and high school. Our school is a K-12 school. I teach I have taught 6th through 12th grade at the school, and those students, their English is near native. So you just have regular conversations. It's not a traditional ESL type classroom. It's definitely an English instruction school room.
Gotcha. Yeah. Very cool. That's neat. So the plan now going forward is, are you heading back to China sometime?
I am. Yeah. In August, I'm moving back to China, which I'm really excited about, to Beijing. Hopefully things will be settled.
Same school as before or different?
No, different school. This is another international school.
Okay.
It's a school that's very close to all the embassies in Beijing.
Okay.
So a lot of the ambassadors' kids and other multinational company kids are going to school there. They have a Swiss school there as well, and a few other things. So it's pretty neat. They have a bunch of different parallel programs running at the same time.
Gotcha. Very cool. Wow, it's such a neat journey, and so people are coming, and what a cool story and stuff. And I agree. It's unique. I remember that from when we had a conversation on the podcast. It was really cool.
Yeah.
So speaking of podcasts, I'm going to kind of change our gears here, because you also have a podcast, Designcast, which is also a member of the Teach Better podcast network, which is awesome. Tell us about the podcast. I'd love to just, if you can share what it's about, but then also I'd love to hear when you started it and why.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So it's really evolved. I'm sure you understand how podcasts evolve over time, and the themes evolve, and you start to see what your listeners prefer and the kind of formats and things. And so I continue to evolve with that. But I started the podcast actually in 2017. My background actually is teaching design education. So it's in the States, it might be STEM or STEAM or industrial arts, if you've been around a while, that kind of thing. And so, that's my background. And in many cases, if you're a vocational or career and technical ed teacher, you're often the only person in your school who teaches that.
Yeah.
And so the podcast was really an opportunity to create a virtual staff room, a way for us to get together and talk about things that are important to us. And so my school is an international baccalaureate school, an IB school, from K through 12. It's got all 4 IB programs. And so that's an even more niche market. And so it started as a way to help IB educators in design feel like they're part of a group. And so that's where we first started, was themes around those things. Then I started to see that let's just get some experts in who maybe aren't even educators, who are leaning towards how do you prepare kids for careers, and how do you, what kind of students do you want to become future employees and things like that. So that's kind of where it's been. I find a theme every few episodes and I talk about it, and then find someone to sort of have a conversation about that as well. So we've talked about gamification. We've talked about diversity, equity, inclusion. We've talked about professional development. It just kind of continues to evolve. People reach out. They're like, I love the podcast. I'd love to be on. Let's chat. So I'm sure, as a podcaster yourself, that these things sort of happen organically in a lot of ways. And so the more you cast your net, the bigger the audience becomes, the more it evolves. And so I'm really, excited, approaching the 100 mark, which I think is a pretty big mark.
Pretty awesome.
To do that. Great. So I'm really excited about that. And as you know, podcasting is much easier to do now than it was even 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, even in 2017, it's so much easier now. Yeah,
man, and I teach podcasting with my students, and so I guess I thought, well, I better be able to do what I'm asking my students to do. So I think that's part of it too. So that's how it all started and what it's all about. And
very cool.
No telling where it's going next. I'm not even sure.
That's cool. All right, so another one of this is another question I love asking. One of my favorites is how did you? I'm trying to remember how you got connected to the team initially. If you were on the podcast, but I think we were connected prior to that.
We were connected because I was listening to the podcast.
Okay, so you kind of found us via the podcast.
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes. Yeah. So I found you guys to the podcast and just really loved the format, the kind of the banter between you and Ray. And I felt that was just a really, really, really fun conversational sort of organic discussion. And so I really appreciated that. And that's where I reached out, and then we kind of connected that way.
Fun fact about the banter. Every single line is scripted.
Of course it is.
We scripted from start to finish. The even the ones that aren't good, we scripted it to not be good, to make you think it was. That's not true. That's the story I love. We interviewed someone at a conference once, and then it was like at lunchtime. So then we interviewed him live, and then we're walking lunch, and he's walking behind us. We didn't know it, and we're bantering. We're like just picking at each other like we do, and he like laughs behind us. We turn around, and he's like, he's like. I didn't realize it happens off the show too. I'm like, oh yeah, this isn't. It's just this brother sister thing. So it's interesting. That's funny. So all right. So I gotta ask now because I know you've told me this, but I can't remember.
Sure.
Explain the handle to me.
Oh, yeah.
I know you've explained it. Before,
I wish it was something really profound. It was my Xbox user handle. And I just thought, Disco Inferno, that's what that is. So,
okay, that's what I thought it was Disco Inferno. Like,
it's Disco Inferno.
That's what say, okay.
I'm Southern, so the 4 is a fur, right?
Yes, I love it. That's great. I'm Southern, so it's a fur. Interesting. Okay. We're gonna jump into our branch of like, so every week we have a theme. This week's theme is being an advocate for the ideas and things that you believe in. So we're gonna dig into that with Jason. We're gonna talk to you about how you advocate for the things that you believe in. So let's get into that. Welcome back to Daily Drop-In. We're live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And we're also not live, but recorded and released on the Teach Better Talk podcast. If you listen on that, thank you for listening. If you're here with us live, thanks for watching. Drop in the comments. Say hi to Jason. Say good evening to Jason, as we've discovered he's on the other side of the world. And it's almost bedtime. Jason, our theme this week is being an advocate and an ambassador for ideas that you care about and things that you believe in. Tell me about how you are an advocate and how you push for the things in your schools that you believe in, that you believe are best for your students or for your colleagues or for the community. How do you advocate for those things for yourself?
Sure. Yeah. As I said, Jeff, I've been overseas a long time and have worked with some really, really amazing educators and human beings. I think a big part of what I advocate for is just the continual growth, and professional learning networks are extremely important, especially overseas, because you are really isolated. Your social group is the people you work with, because I live in the same compound where probably 50% of the other teachers at my school live. So we're all like on top of each other. We go get coffee. We're around each other all the time. So that professional network is also your social group, which is very strange. So when you are not overseas and you go home, everyone goes off to their own lives after school. Where here, we just go and change clothes and we hang out again at dinner or whatever. So I think
interesting.
it is. And it's not easy for everyone. Not everyone can, they don't like their life to be on display that much, because you do also live around your students. Everyone's kind of close in proximity. Yeah. So I advocate for having a really robust external professional learning network with teachers, because that through Twitter, through whatever, LinkedIn, whatever, because you do need to reach out beyond that very, very tight pond that we're in. And so on a professional level, that's what I advocate for. Where I advocate for my students is the fact of how important design education is, and design thinking is for their future careers and for their futures as in the workforce, as also as in, change makers. And so I advocate for that. And that is not an easy thing to advocate for, because it costs money. It also requires vision. It requires a fair bit of grace with the leadership to say, look, we're willing to get behind this idea. We don't know what it's going to look like, but we're willing to trust you. And so you have to build trust among the people who you're around. And I've had some people who are really, really advocates with me, and they didn't know what we were going to do. They just knew they trusted me and they trusted my experience. And so as far as advocate for students, this whole idea of, I'm a big fan of individual learning pathways, and I'm not talking about as in like special education or gifted education. I'm talking about that every student has a pathway that they follow in school that's unique to them, and that allows them to follow those passions. And they're given opportunities, of course, to learn within context. And so I think that's where, and design's a big part of that, because there's so many of the other subjects feed into what you need in design thinking, what you need in branding, podcasting, whatever. Those are just, those are tools, but it's really important that we, that we advocate for that. So that's where I advocate for students, and then the professional learning networks for adults.
I love both of those. When you talk about advocating, and you were talking about building that trust and earning that trust because of the grace that needed. How have you found that you have best built that trust with your colleagues and with your administrative team?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first thing is reaching out to that network that's nearby, so that I can actually take those administrators or those leaders to other locations that are similar to ours and see how things are successful. So they can see, oh, this is working in this context. How can we make that work in our context? So that's usually my first thing, is exposure, because in many cases, leaders just don't know. They just don't have the exposure, and they haven't had that opportunity, and I can't blame them for that, And so I think, me showing empathy and understanding towards them, it goes a long way, and them being able to do the same for me. And so I need to set that up for them. So that's where I usually, through talking to me, I'm a real people person, and I'm a very I love the art of the conversation. So I think for me, that's my strength, is being able to sit down, have a very frank conversation that's not confrontational, but that is filled with the important things because I think everyone's in education to make kids better, so, and if they're not, they're in the wrong field. Right. So I think we have to always bring that back up, is that this is what's best for kids. And I think our parents are highly active in our school. And so, cause they're paying, right. So because they're our customers, they expect a certain level. So I also will tend to advocate on that end, that this is value for, this is going to sell the school even more.
And so is it a similar process of building that trust with the parents as well, so that they see why this might be something that they should give some grace on because it shows the potential? Or is it a different avenue with parents, or is it similarly the same?
So
you took a deep breath right there.
Well, and I'll say that because it's been different everywhere I've been.
I imagine, yeah.
My current market, this is the top 1% of people in Korea. We're the only school that can take Korean passport holders. That's another thing I didn't mention earlier. Is many international schools are in school and places where they actually can't take local students because of local laws and different things. And
so it's only international students who's
in many cases, yeah. But
okay.
we're quite lucky in our school because we can accept students from the local community.
Okay.
So parents are paying a lot of money because they know that their students will come out of this school ready to go off to university or whatever their next thing is. And so many of these parents are self-made. Many of them are in businesses that require design thinking style. So it's not hard for me to sell that to them
because it connects to them. They see
because it connects to them.
That allowed their, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Breeze asking IB by chance. Yes.
Yes.
It is IB.
It is. Yeah.
That's interesting. So then now I want to go to the other advocate.
Okay.
That you mentioned about building your personal network beyond. What's your go-to, and how have you found you personally? What's been the way that you've built the strongest relationships with those folks via the internet, that whether it be Twitter or whatever? How have you, and how are you continuing to generate new connections and foster those connections and build those relationships so that you get that external network that you advocate for?
Yeah. Great question. I have to back up and say, when I lived in China, there are certain things that don't work.
Sure.
And so because of that, LinkedIn works really well. The Chinese, as a group, really love that network because they can really, there's training and there's all kinds of different things. So LinkedIn is very strong. So I think that's where I really kind of 5 years ago, when I started this journey of really developing my professional learning network, there was that. But I find Twitter to be a lot more nimble and a lot faster to use. And it's so, the bite size kind of thing. And so I work with folks with that. And then, it's just kind of been depending on where I'm at. There's in Asia, particularly, there's a real, there's all these WhatsApp groups. And so you get into these groups with 250 people. And then all of a sudden you instantly have like a network.
So it's like, okay. Yeah. Okay. Not super familiar with WhatsApp. I've been on it a couple times, but so like, is that it, when you talk about a group, is that like it's like a chat group?
It's like a message board. Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Like a message group. Yeah. Okay. So you're dropping there with 250 people
instantly. Okay. Yeah. So it's a great way to get folks in there. You can leave voice chat things you can, and you can put on PDFs.
Similar like a Voxer? Is that
a little bit like, yeah, it's similar to Voxer. Yeah. And so,
we're like an updated AOL chat room.
A lot like MSN Messenger. Yeah.
MSN Messenger. Oh, for those of you children watching,
I was going to say for all the kids.
Sorry, now I'm thinking M/20 whatever.
Exactly. So yeah, we use WhatsApp. We use believe it or not, many countries in Asia have their own kind of messenger apps. So in Korea, there's one called Kakao, which outside of Korea, I'd never heard of. And then here it's used for everything. Within China, there's WeChat, which allows you to have moments and other things that you can create, and there's a whole social aspect to that as well. So I've got a lot of those different ones, and I use them for different groups, right? And so also I do a lot of in-person workshops, at least before the pandemic, for IB educators. I would go and facilitate these workshops around the area, and so we always built our own little network within those 25 or 30 people. And so it just kind of, they tell two friends and they tell two friends, and it just kind of, it multiplies that way. And so and then most recently, I've been using a lot of Discord with some other groups that I, and that's I find that to be a lot more intimate, as far as people really do become very close in those groups because they are closed in a sense. And there's a lot of interaction you can have in different threads.
Yeah, once you figure out how the heck to use it. That was my biggest thing with Discord when I first got on. I'm like,
what are all these things? Yeah,
exactly. And all the Discords that I'm in are all NFT related. So like I was learning the NFT world too. And I'm like, so I don't understand what you're saying or where or how you're saying it. I'm trying to figure this whole thing out. But now I enjoy it now. It's nice.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting Discord
another network, right?
Yeah, it's just another thing. Discord's like, I don't know, it's got a similar feel to Slack.
Slack, yeah.
That, but I feel like it's on like it's on steroids, I guess, for lack of a better.
Much more gamer based, right?
Yes, it levels up into a different because and I love how they can connect and verify through wallets and all that type of stuff. It's really interesting the technology that they're driving into Discord, but it can get super overwhelming really fast when you get in there.
Yes.
And I'm like, I do it on my computer because my phone, I'm like, this is nuts. I don't know what's going on.
Blows your phone up
because it's exactly. So at least on here, I got a big screen so I can kind of navigate myself, right? Yeah. So going back to you advocate for the external network, but you mentioned earlier about how you all live basically around each other and like that. Have you found that's a positive in a sense that your group and your colleagues, you guys are closer because you essentially have to be, or does it create drama and animosity almost in a sense, like, or is it both?
It's both.
It's both. Okay. I was gonna say it probably depends on the person.
It depends. And not all international schools are set up the same way. So some have their own housing on campus and teachers live on campus, like in a boarding school type situation.
So you're not on campus. You're just
I'm in a compound nearby. Right. Gotcha. And so, there's multiple compounds, so not everybody lives together. Gotcha. But a lot of people who are teachers who have kids themselves live in this one complex. And so our kids all play together, which can be good and it can be bad, right? So there's that too. So there are times where there's conflict because of the personal bleeds into the professional. But then there's also times where the community is already there. So I have a flat tire, 15 people show up in the basement in the parking garage to help out, right? So I think there's you've kind of created this small town feel where everyone has the same job.
Does it help with the like the collaboration within the school because the relationships just assuming the relationships are good and it hasn't gone sour, like because if they're stronger, you know each other on a different level. And when you're, in the evening having drinks, you're probably talking about work. Yeah. And you're figuring each other out on what the beliefs is and what does Jason advocate? What do we all believe in? So then now when we're in a professional sense and say, I have this idea and, hey, Jane, this is why I think you're going to love it. Because remember last night we were talking about this and like, so does the collaboration work better because of that?
I believe so. Yeah. Okay. When I compare it to the time I had in the States, where everything was really sort of decentralized. We have happy hours where we go out after work and then we all share a taxi home. Right. I mean, I think there is that, people go on vacations together, kids become friends. So you do develop a very tight friendship with, of course, certain people. What's nice is that when people move on, which is a natural part of this process, 2 to 4 years is kind of the cycle. When they move on, you now have someone to go visit, right? And the Bahamas or Cairo or wherever
your life is already connected outside of
that's right.
professional, so it doesn't just break because you're no longer in the hallway.
That's right.
Okay,
that's right. Yeah, you keep in touch more often.
Flip classroom tutorials is mentioned in the never-ending stream of emojis and the usernames in Discord.
Yes.
James, it looks like maybe you might be international as well. He said that there's a cycle and it's great to catch up after a few years. So interesting. So for those watching right now, Jason, who may be going, man, that sounds like a really cool adventure to go all these places and all these different things. It's so unique. How do I, if I'm a teacher in the States and I've never thought about this before, how do I do this? How do I go? How do I go to South Korea and teach or somewhere or Bermuda or whatever? Like, what are the steps that I take? I know you heard, but you've been doing it for a while, so I'm sure it's changed a little bit. Can you give us sort of the broad? You have to go super detailed.
Sure.
But broad, like where would I start? Where do I go start to figure out where my options are?
Yeah, and I get this. This is the number one question I get, figured. Jeff, is how do I do it? Because, I mean, there are a lot of great benefits to this. And, you do have to uproot your family and be okay with being flexible. You're okay with power going out for 6 hours, or a typhoon day or whatever, there's riots, or whatever there might be. But if you're really interested, the number one thing is to be realistic about where you're okay living, and to what level of discomfort or what level of uncertainty you're okay being in. Most people, especially from the States, want to start going to Europe. And that's great if you've got plenty of savings, because by the time, you're going to be paying high taxes and it's a very, very, very competitive market. Asia, the Middle East are a lot more open for people to go to. But again, you need to be prepared for that. But the number one thing is just to sort of my wife and I have an ongoing spreadsheet with our priorities, and we list things. So number one has to be a school that our children can do both English and Chinese in. I mean, that's the number one priority. They're bilingual. That's what we want. Number two, close to an airport, because we need to be able to get in and out. If something goes on, or that travel time, if you're doing it often, I know you travel a lot, Jeff. If you're in the car and you're already tired when you get to the airport, it's just not an enjoyable experience. And so close to the airport, safe for our kids. There's all these things that you think about. Once you kind of have your priorities and you kind of know your area, there are recruitment fairs and things like that you can become a part of their database and do searching. I have actually found that going directly to schools you're interested in and going to their employment page is the best way to find a job. It also helps for that network. The network is how I find my jobs is through people that are saying, hey, wait a minute, Jason, so-and-so, this is happening at this school. Now and also the recruitment hiring cycle is very different from in the United States, where you get your contract a few months before the end of the school year, or you let them know. You can decide 2 weeks before the end of the year if you want to quit, where we actually start 2 weeks into school. We're telling our intention for our contract
for the next year.
For the next year. Yeah. Wow, and if you're in administration, it's even longer than that. So you usually let them know a year out if you're thinking of leaving. If you're
are you signing the following year's contract that early potentially? Or
in many schools you sign multiple year contracts.
Okay.
So when you first get hired, you're signing a 2 or 3 year contract in most places, because it's expensive, right? To move and to relocate families.
A year prior to that one ending, you're committing whether you're going to leave or sign additional. Gotcha.
So if you're on the Northern Hemisphere, which is what most of these schools are based on, not Southern Hemisphere, we start school in August, September, and then we end, in May, June. By October, you're already looking for your next job, and jobs are starting to appear, except in Europe, which is where it gets crazy, because Europe is a lot more like the US. Even their national school jobs, they don't have to advertise them till about April. So if you're committed to going to Europe, then you need to know those kinds of things. So, you learn these throughout, and the recruitment has changed tremendously during COVID. We used to have all these in-person, around different areas. There were these in-person recruitment fairs. Those are starting to reemerge, but what schools are finding is actually cheaper to hire people through video call than it is to go to London and hire someone for your job in Papua New Guinea, and it's just, it's crazy.
There's no travel. You're not sending someone there. Yeah, it's a lot easier.
So there's a lot of recruiters who've opened up online sort of virtual job fairs.
Gotcha. Interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
James actually said, James says the international schools in Europe do start their recruitment cycles in October, November.
Yep.
It sounds like they may have to start them there because they get so popular. But interesting. Very cool. It's such an interesting world that you are in. All right, we're gonna get into some good news here and share some. We got some holidays today as well. So let's jump into that here. Welcome back to Daily Drop, and we are live here on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn with our good friend Jason Reagan. And we are live here every day, Monday through Friday, although Jason's only here today. I'm sorry. It's not Jason every day.
I'll come back anytime you want, Jeff.
Verify that. Well, we might hold you to that. So we've been chatting about quite a few things, but we do a segment every day where we share some good news stories, and we share some holidays that are going on. So Jason, you are the guest. You are in control. Do you want the good news first or the holidays first?
Let's go with good news, man.
Good news first. Okay, so this was a fun story. I didn't pull it up. I thought I did. So I'm going to kind of read it because I think it's better reading the thing. So there was the story of Julie Johnson and her husband, and they don't know what happened, but somehow, some way, in the middle of the night during a storm, someone snuck into their house, snuck into their bed without anybody noticing, not even their 3 dogs that they own. No one noticed, and they woke up startled to find a dog that was not theirs cuddled up with them on bed. And turns out it was a dog that was somewhere in the neighborhood, like that had slipped its collar the night before, got scared of the storm, snuck past 3 other dogs in the house and got into bed with him. They found the owner, and the owner was like, obviously super apologetic and just thinks it's amazing that they didn't care. They just snuggled with it. And now these 2 families, and there are now 4 dogs altogether, have play dates all the time. And they're like, the dogs are the best of friends. And it's hilarious, but they got in there, and snuck, like, there's pictures, this gorgeous dog of them with this dog that wasn't theirs that snuck into the bed. I don't know how you take that into your classroom necessarily and twist that into pedagogical talk at all, but a fun story with some cute pictures to share with students, share with colleagues. It's over at goodnewsnetwork.org, which is one of the places we get this, but we're dog people here. And I liked it. I'm pretty sure I'd be startled if another dog was there, but I'm pretty sure we would just cuddle up with it.
Just cuddle.
Although our dog literally sleeps like right here in between us, and sometimes ends up on our pillows and everything else. But I thought that was a hilarious story. So it made me smile this morning. I'm like, I'm going to share that. I think this is great. So are you a dog person? I'm
a dog person, man.
Do you have particularly? Does your dog go with you? A what?
No, I don't have a dog at the moment. Okay. I'm a Georgia Bulldog, so there's that. But I'm also I'm a dog person. No, I've always owned Dachshunds, which I absolutely adore. And so I think the hardest thing in living overseas, in many cases, you're in apartments and in flats, and high-rise apartments, and so it's just hard to have. People do have them, and they take good care of them, but I have a hard time justifying that myself. So I'm hoping my next place I live in has a bit of a courtyard or something, so we can have something, have a dog.
All right. So, so there's your good news story, goodnewsnetwork.org. If you want to share about a dog sneaking in and the pictures are adorable. We also have some holidays today. So interesting holidays. There's one big holiday that is a very important Jewish holiday, and I hope I pronounce it right. It's Laj Bomer, which is an important holiday for anyone who is in the Jewish faith. So if you're observing that today, I'm not sure if you say happy, because it's the end of a mourning period. So I apologize. I'm ignorant to that. But I did learn a lot this morning about it by looking into it and I watched some really nice videos around it. So it's also National Barber Mental Health Awareness Day. So mental health awareness, which clearly, obviously really important, but this is very focused and niche down to barbers. And that I'm not aware if there's like a thing amongst barbers or not.
I was going to say, do they have issues with mental health?
Well, I don't know. If you think about a barber, though, barber probably takes in a lot of, almost probably like a therapist or takes in a lot of stories that might weigh kind of heavy on them. If you think you talk to your barber, I could see that, man. I could. You're observing a lot of pain and stuff for other people. I'm not being serious. Like, that's a legit thing. Being aware of that. So thank you, barber, today. Make sure your barber knows that you love them today. It's also, and this is, you could help them this way by celebrating with them National Devil's Food Cake Day. So get your barber a cake.
A devil's food cake.
Yes.
Wow.
I don't know.
Pretty specific.
It's also National May Ray Day, which is they just say check out how you could. It's National May Ray Day. I'm not sure what that is. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. It's something that you celebrate in South Korea? I don't know. So it's a day we take to celebrate all the rays of sunshine in our lives. Well, that's actually pretty positive.
Oh, okay.
All right. It was actually okay. So it's actually somewhat Richard Ankley, who dedicated the holiday to honor his brother Ray, who was born on the same day in 1977.
Huh.
Interesting. So it's been around for a while. It's also my good friend. I don't know if you're able to connect this person. Good friend, close friend of the family. JoJo Siwa's birthday.
Okay.
JoJo, she's not really a good friend of the family. But JoJo Siwa's birthday. I don't know how old she is today, but happy birthday to you, JoJo. And then Marshmello, the artist Marshmello, his birthday as well.
Oh. Okay.
So we got a couple birthdays. We got,
wow.
a lot of stuff. So anyway,
A lot of stuff. Busy day.
yeah. James touched on the barbers. They're almost counselors. They really are. Like that's really true. I think it's about time for me to go. Anyway, so there's your, and just so if anybody's interested, we go to nationaltoday.com. Is when we get our holidays. It's really actually nice. They have articles and stuff, but then every day there's a link that's today's holidays, and this shows all the holidays because it's actually not that difficult to make something a holiday in the States. Now, obviously, to make it a national holiday is another thing, but there's some interesting ones, Jason. We have some really interesting ones here on the day.
Cool.
So, anyway, so there's your holidays and your good news and everything like that. So enjoy that. I had one more question. I was trying to think, and then I've lost it, and that's my fault because I was focused on getting cake with my barber today.
Absolutely, man.
So Jason, it's what, almost 9:00 now there? Are you wrapping up the day?
It's 8:40. Yeah.
Is it time for bed for you?
It's kind of things are crazy. So one other thing to add about living in Korea is that students leave school and then they go to school. So they have a second school that they go to at night.
All right. Explain that a little bit now.
Yeah. And so I figured you might want to hear about that. And our students, many of them do this as well. Okay. And so, and I know that James and Sethi, who's been commenting, will definitely know about this, but especially in Korean culture, they have these tutors or these academies to catch you up or to make sure you're not falling behind. Okay. And so we have students as young as, 6 and 7 years old who leave school, have something to eat, and go to school. And then they're not home. They go to 10
another building, like
a whole nother building. There's a little bus that picks them up, and they do all kinds of stuff.
How long do they go to that for typically?
10:30, 11 o'clock at night sometimes. And these are like
another
kids.
2, 3.
It's a whole nother school, basically. Yeah. So unfortunately, during the school year, you don't usually see too many young kids out unless there's some kind of holiday. Because it's crazy. So our kids are tired. They're sleepy because they're going from school to school.
Now, do the kids have extracurricular activities, sports, things like that? Or so how does that work? Then do they go to that and then hustle back over to school too?
Yeah, they can do that. And some of these academies, they're called hagwons. Some of them will actually offer other piano and violin and other things, but then some of them are for math, some of them are for tennis, some of them are SAT. There's some that are like cram school type things for SATs and things like that. So we learned really early on by working here not to ask necessarily how your weekend was, because most kids were in school all weekend.
So they go to school through the weekend too.
Some of them will. Some of them will, or they'll be they go to like MC school, so they can learn how to MC meetings and things like that. So they have K-pop dancing. They just do all kinds of stuff, and which is great. I mean, they do have a really enriched life because of that. But a lot of it's planned out from moment to moment while they're awake.
Is all that's awesome that they have that. Yeah, that's also a really great thing that's available. Is it viewed primarily as expected, though, not as, hey, this is an availability thing that you can do if you want to do because we have this? Or is it, this is like culturally, is it like this is what we do here? Like it's weird not
it is very cultural.
It's different to not go than it is. Okay.
It's pretty much expected. I think the kids also see the value in it because they want to make their parents proud, and they want to do the very best they can. So I mean, with anything, too much of one thing can be a bad thing. So our students do work really hard. And we really do attempt to give them a balance of school and social as much as we can, because we do know a lot of them have a whole nother set of expectations after they leave school. Yeah. And so we don't encourage that, but we also understand it's part of the deal, so yeah.
I would guess that after 4 or 5 years of being in school and doing that, it's just how their life.
It's just a routine,
right? Yeah. Obviously, if a student from here was ninth grade and went over and started experiencing that, it would feel terrible.
It's rough. It's rough.
But if that's how our school was, then you'd be used to it, right? It'd be the same, like schools that that go all year round. Like that's not weird to them. That's just how it is. So it's for us. It's like, wow, that seems like a lot, but if that's the culture, then that's how they do it, right? So that's interesting. It's really cool that they have such an opportunity for so much so much education and learning and exposure to things. So
yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Okay. Super interesting. Jason, I'm so glad that that I was able to jump in here and steal this spot from Katie and hang out with you. Super excited for being there. Really appreciate you. Always appreciate the conversation. Hopefully it is not as long between this one and the next one.
Let's hope not. Yeah.
We'll
let's
work
try not
on
to make
that.
that.
But really appreciate you being here. If you've been watching, comments, I really appreciate all of you comment. We have a very active comment section today. So appreciate you all jumping in wherever you are. I think we have some all around the world today, which is awesome. And if you're watching on the podcast or listening on the podcast later, thanks for listening. Appreciate you. Make sure you subscribe and hit the like button or the leave a review. That'd be great. We'll be back tomorrow morning. Katie and Brad will be taking care of our Friday morning daily drop in. So join us every day, and I will be back all next week. I'm here all 5 days next week. So if that's not a good thing, then I won't see you next week, but hopefully you'll tune in next week. And I kick off next week with Dave Schmitto. So that's going to be a fun, entertaining one because Dave and I typically do brain break where there are no rules. And we're going to do Monday morning daily drop-in where there's supposed to be rules.
Okay.
Although normally it's Ray and I. So
yeah,
I don't know. Jason, you know how that goes. So
anyway,
we appreciate you. We appreciate you all watching.
Yeah,
if you ever need anything, obviously reach out. We're here for you all. And have an amazing rest of your day or your evening. And we will see you tomorrow morning. Bye, guys.